Well, here we are again. Oh, right, I should be waiting. Yes. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. Um, no, no. There's nothing wrong. It's mostly just my leg, or well, yeah, my leg sort of bothering me. But that's neither here or there. Good. Mm, do I have to wait another? I'll wait another 30 seconds. That's right, right? They shouldn't be complaining if they can't be here on time. I give them, what, 30 seconds? I give them 30 seconds notice, right? But no, obviously, well, we do what we must. It's all about the money at the end of the day, isn't it? No, I'm not a capitalist. But when you provide a service, unfortunately, part of the service is to massage your buyer's egos, right? And so unfortunately this is just something we have to do. Anyway, okay, so we're good. Let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. How are we doing today? That would be something, wouldn't it? Yes. So today we are going to run a quick writing exercise because that has apparently been sponsored. I'm given to understand that our progeny group, I don't know, what am I saying? The year 1 classmates, right? So the descendants have gotten their progenitors to sponsor a I don't know why. Well, I have a mild idea why, but essentially we're going to do some writing. The first year class is going to give me 3. Was it 3 nouns? It was 3 nouns, right? Yes. And we are going to build a story around that in 30 minutes. It should be fun. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. I haven't had a sort of like these kinds of writing challenges in forever, so this will be fun. Now, normally, when I do write, especially fiction, I tend to do it with a nice glass of whiskey on the side, but unfortunately today that's not going to be possible. Well, so no, it's not because of meetings. Believe it or not, alcohol during meetings is not the end of the world. But no, it's I don't like drinking while I am in physical pain. It's just, it feels like it's cheating, because oftentimes when you are in physical pain and you sort of load up on a little bit of alcohol. I just realized that as well. Thank you for telling me. Oh, I see. It's because we can't come to a conclusion about what bloody Microsoft. Anyway, give me one quick second. Let me fix this. Is that fixed? Oh. That looks like it's basically fixed. One down. There we go. Okay, so that's fixed. What was I saying? Right, I don't like drinking while I'm in pain because it feels like cheating, because obviously, alcohol is one of the great ways, well, I wouldn't say great, but one of the timeless ways of curing pain, right? So we'll just do as is. Anyway. Well, that isn't my fault. Yes. What software? I'm using Obsidian for a bunch of reasons. Well, obviously, part of the reason is that this is my go-to text sort of storage. Like, all of those little notes that I occasionally share, they're all stored in Obsidian, and you can do things like graph mode and stuff. Not important. But yeah, are we ready to start with this writing because exactly, it's been 5 minutes. Let's get the show on the road. Yes, please. Whenever you guys are ready. I presume someone's doing a random word generator. It doesn't matter. Just hit me with the words. Water, city, stars. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So the idea is to, if not write an entire short story, then at least to have the outlines of a story ready, so that it becomes easier to convert that into a story down the line, right? Excellent. Okay. I mean, this doesn't seem that difficult, if I'm honest. Like this like I can make up stories around this all the time. And I mean that's kind of the point of creativity, right? Like you're supposed to um essentially broaden your horizons and allow allow the words to take you where they go, right? So for example, I'm going to say city by the river. Let's say, and so let's do this. Main character, our main character is actually going to be the city, and we're going to talk about rise and decline of the city over the ages. By the river, decline. Star. Let's call it Stardust. Re. How do we say this? Regrowth. Regrowth. Civil unrest. Macroeconomics. So our main character is going to be the city. It's going to our short story is going to talk about the rise of the city, original rise of the city, the decline, and then by accident, let's say Stardust, whatever Stardust is, we'll get to that. Is promotes the regrowth and sort of the rejuvenation of the city, which then leads to civil unrest, and all of this has underpinnings of macroeconomics. And we are always going to add macroeconomics into everything, because especially when we talk about civilizations, at the end of the day, almost everything comes back down to macroeconomics, right? It's not to sound like a first year, not to sound like the Econ 101 professor, but supply and demand, right? Like there is nothing. The fundamental truth of human society has always been about supply and demand. Actually, interestingly, if we go back to, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was when we switched as a species, when we switched from hunter gathering to sedentary, or not sedentary, but settled land. We saw, rather interestingly, a decline in the how do you say, the variety of Y chromosome of male genes, and there are very obvious explanations for that, but we won't get into that today. We had civil unrest and then rebirth. Let's talk about that. Okay, so city by the river. So essentially, when I look at something like this, right, we have sort of the big the big points. Essentially, they just tumble out of the imagination, and once you have that, you can take this and sort of massage it until it becomes a full story. In my case, I would say rise and decline of the city over the ages. So let's say, actually, I don't even need this. Let's say end of the Steam Age, or beginning of Steam Age saw it become a coal capital of the world. World, there we go. Easy access to water and coal meant rapid industrialization. You know what? That's actually a good point coming from a Brummie, right? No, we're not talking about Birmingham, because if I'm honest, there has been no regrowth and rejuvenation in Birmingham. No, I'm just being mean. Birmingham, for reference, is an industrial town in, well, more than an industrial town. It was one of the biggest cities in the British Empire following the Victorian age, and that's because it managed to have essentially, the easy access to water and coal, and therefore rapid industrialization, and a lot of the Victorian and Edwardian factories were in Birmingham or around there for that particular reason. So yeah, rapid industrialization. The let's say the city rested on laurels, and then, is this supposed to be a book or a short story? Short story, yes. And so, if this were a book, each of these points would probably become a chapter. If it's a short story, each of these points is probably a paragraph or so. And so through this, you sort of, it's an outline, right? That's what it's supposed to do. Birmingham's not by the river. Come on, it's the Venice of the North, remember? Actually, do people still call it the Birmingham, Venice of the North? Venice of... Can you imagine being called the Venice of the North? No. Did I say it was by the sea earlier? I'm so sorry. No, it's got a ton of rivers and canals, right? And so yeah. If I implied that Birmingham was in at the sea, I'm very sorry for that. That's obviously not true. It's smack dab in the middle of the UK, but it does have a lot of rivers, and rivers facilitate a lot of transport for heavy industry, right? And being in the center of Britain meant that it could aggregate things and then send it back out, right? It becomes a central hub of sorts, especially in a country as technically small as England. That made it a lot easier. Anyway, yes, city rested on laurels by the river. What am I saying? Decline with information age. Oh, we can just, we can move this down here. Decline by information age. Home to a, let's call it a reactionary, middle, let's call it lower. Excuse me. I'm so used to now using Mac hotkeys that I'm getting a little bit busty with my Windows ones. Anyway, home to a reactionary lower class. Stardust regrow. Discovery of Stardust. Let's put some big quotes on that. Discovery of Stardust led to a boom. Where around Birmingham? Not. I can't believe I'm now thinking that I'm writing about Birmingham. I'm not writing about Birmingham. Okay, Birmingham is not a thing. Can we just move? Yeah, no, Richard Hammond is not going to come and kick my ass. You know that. My boy doesn't even like Birmingham. That's why he lives in Wales. God damn it. Anyway, can we just can we just like all move and I'm doing a hand gesture for no reason, but can we just all move past the idea of Birmingham now so that we can actually focus on the writing, please, and thank you. Anyway, so the discovery led to a boom in, let's call it, resourcing. Or my hands. Keep in mind, I'm still doing this with a broken index finger, right? So, guys, relax. Led to a boom in resource extraction, but that requires higher skilled workers due to advanced nature of extraction methods, right? And so that, of course, leads to civil unrest. Local lower middle class is resentful of the influx of metropolitan, let's say, skilled workers. Locals can only do the menial labor. Reactionary middle class, and up here we're going to write chronic underinvestment in education and public services. Can only do the formation. Let's call it. I don't want to call it. Definitely not revolutionaries, but let's call them. What should we call them? Formation of nativists. Nativists. There we go. Leads to tensions between locals and multinationals. We're not. This is not. This is not Birmingham. Can we just? And also, you know, I can't. I don't even understand how, but I'm now reading the chat of our boy who's actually from Birmingham. I'm reading his messages with a Brummy accent in my mind. So whenever it's just, I'm not gonna do the accent obviously, but like, ooh, right? Like, can you imagine? Just everything he says in that, you know, like, I'm imagining a mustache. Actually, you know, you should grow a mustache. You're at the age where you should do that. Yes, let's encourage our boy to grow a mustache. Anyway, so locals can do blah 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 blah. How are we gonna? Actually, before we continue, this is to our sponsors, not the progenitor sponsors, but to their actual descendants who actually asked for this. So for all of our year 1 students, do you want this to have a mildly happy ending, or are we just gonna kill them all? Okay, why don't you decide that amongst yourselves? Once a decision has been made, we can actually just slot sort of things into it, and so that won't be too big of an issue. We'll do this, and you'll notice that I end up with basically 2 to 3 points underneath each. And the idea is, if we were to go further, right, if this was supposed to be a book as opposed to a short story, we would then, each of these points would have another 3 points underneath, right? Like, we could talk about, for example, at the beginning of the Steam Age, we could talk about, you know, like the technology, we could talk about the locals, we could talk about sort of the nation surrounding it, and each of those would essentially be a chapter in their own. And so what then happens is, 3 points giving us 3 chapters means these are already 9 chapters, 18 chapters, 24 chapters. I can't do any math. 30 chapters, 30 odd chapters. And obviously, like, I'm not saying that each one of them is a huge chapter, right? But each one of them deals with our main character, which is the city, in sort of a different way, and then we go through the city in this chronological fashion. Of course, we don't have to. This is simply just how when I typed city, right? And it's essentially how I imagine that this story would go. Of course, actually, it certainly doesn't have to go like that, right? You could imagine that, for example, we let me do this. Let me and then I'll do a new outline. Let's call this a thematic progression. I have no idea what it's called professionally, and I don't really care what it's called professionally. What pretentious authors would talk about, and don't tell me even if you knew. Not important to me, because the point is to do the storytelling, right? So in this case, we might not even have this entire thing. So we might just take this entire thing and have it as a theme. Oop, wrong button again. And have it as a theme, but just sort of keep it somewhere down here. And so instead of saying, like, we'll have an entire section of the book dedicated to that, we could say, when we're talking about the decline of the information age, we can talk about how it started, right? When we're talking about the boom in research extraction, I don't actually need this, we could move this down here. Again, I don't need that. Come on, how do I get to the... No idea. Doesn't matter. We can do this, right? And then city resting on its laurels, we could very clearly put that down into the rise of nativism, right? So suddenly we have this completely different way of telling the story, where instead of it being a very chronological idea, we start talking about, we start inserting little bits and pieces of its history into a variety of places, right? And so that's what I would, in this case, call a thematic progression. Call this a timeline progression. Don't quote me on these names. No, never quote me on these names. I don't care. Well, because the point isn't... When it comes to art, and I would consider writing fiction a form of art. When it comes to art, so that's writing, that's all of my brush work, that's the digital stuff, which apparently you are buying as NFTs. Please don't. Might as well pay me the money. Anyway, not important. When it comes to these things, I am not really interested in what professional critics have to say, right? Like, that's not to say that there isn't stuff to critique. It is more that, how do I explain this? Fundamentally, and I know we're almost out of time, so we're not actually, we might do some writing, probably not today. Fundamentally, when it comes to arts, there is a certain amount of base work that you do, and then everything else is simply not important, if that makes sense, or is simply supposed to be an expression of individuality, of ideas, of philosophy. And so if my sentences have to be grammatically grammatically correct. The vocabulary has to be correct. I cannot be using the wrong the wrong word unless there is a very firm reason for it. I cannot put Birmingham at the edge of the sea, just I can't right. So as long as the facts, like, unless the book intrinsically and fundamentally deals with disinformation, the facts should all stand up. And so that's why when we get to this portion, when we're talking about the themes, the facts must stand up on their own. And so as long as the foundations, and this is what I mean by foundations: grammar, vocabulary, facts, as long as they are correct, I couldn't care less, right? And this is how I judge other people's art, right? And this is how I hope other people judge my art. Does that kind of make sense? Like, when I no, you're absolutely correct. You could have the most atrocious spelling in the world and still have very interesting things to say. The onus, let me put it this way, right? Like, if someone the problem is in presentation. We need a fundamental amount of presentation. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be, the most polished thing in the world. It has to be done in such a way that it doesn't communication is a two-way thing, right? Like, not only does the other person have to read your writing, you have to also write in such a way that other people can understand it. If you wrote the answers to life, the universe, and everything in, let's say, dog poo, right? Not everyone is going to be able to wade through all of that to read it. And so fundamentally, and I'm using this word a lot, yes, fundamentally, you need to have some amount of fundamentals of the basic skills of presentation to make sure that this gets passed, right? And there's just simply no way around that in our current society. You have to be able to present. You don't have to go on stage and be say Steve Jobs, bless his heart, like, you don't have to go on stage and be a slick salesman. No, I'm not saying that at all. But you cannot go on stage and smear yourself. I mean, unless you had a very specific purpose, right? Because that's sort of what a lot of the surrealist and postmodernists do, or even modernists, whatever. I don't. The point is, you have to be presentable, and in my view at least, and here we're getting philosophical and completely off topic again, but art cannot simply serve the creator, in that, and if you want other people to give value to your art, then you cannot simply do it out of a selfish desire to express yourself. Does that make sense? So if you create this art and you don't want anyone else to see it, and it doesn't matter, right? And you don't want any value assigned to it except the value that you give it yourself, fine, great. But if you want other people to evaluate, to find value in your work, then you cannot do it out of a selfish desire to simply express yourself. And I find that, at least for me, I have kind of delved into that mindset a little bit now and then, but sort of a while ago, when I was, that's a different story. when you're in the mindset of an artist and you're seeking perfection or you're seeking truth or whatever, fine, great. But if you're writing this for, marks, then you can't treat it as a personal exercise. If you're writing this because you want other people to read it and say, oh wow, this person is so cool and has such deep philosophical thoughts, then no, you cannot write with like you cannot do the equivalent of smearing crap all over your face and then expecting others to value you based only on your thoughts, right? Like it simply doesn't work that way. Like the human mind simply will not be able to give you the value that you deserve if you don't have some fundamental amount of ability of presenting yourself. And I realize I've completely gone off topic. I'm very sorry for that. Ask your progenitors. This is just what I do. I'm sure most of you know this already. And we are truthfully, we are also done for today. So I'm just gonna end it here. We can turn this into a short story. I have no problem with that. We will be. I'm sure most of you know how it works. Get your progenitors to sponsor another one of these, and we'll try to turn this into a short story, but not a novel. No, thank you. Oh, look at those progenitors. Look at them trying to be all. What are you guys trying to do? I'm seeing so much more pretension than before the descendants joined in. What are you guys doing? Come on, no. Anyway, we are done for today. Yes, thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox, please download Chrome, and I am, I guess, mildly apologetic for having, spent 30 minutes talking about stuff completely unrelated to writing, but you know what? Actually, no, it wasn't 30 minutes of stuff unrelated to writing. It was maybe 10ish. So we're good. Good. All right. No, tomorrow I'm not gonna let anyone sponsor because I really want to finish the composition, the music that we did yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah. Cool. All right. Bye. Bye.